So we would like to warmly welcome you to this online seminar of the International Day of Chinese Language or My Chinese Dream. So this webinar is going to be broadcasted in Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, and English. And I ask you please to select the language you want to listen to the conference in. You need to select at the bottom of your screen, you have a globe icon where you can choose the channel of your choice. Please, I would also like to remind you from Fundación CLEC to be informed about all seminars and workshops that we do during the year. Please, we ask you kindly to check our website, which we're going to be sharing in the chat, and our social networks. Also, we like to let you know that all of our seminars and workshops are free of charge. And in general, we provide a diploma of participation for those who attend to 80% of our seminars. Finally, everyone who cannot participate, or if you wish to see again our seminar, you can review our YouTube channel. Now, I would like to give the floor to our director, Mr. Roberto Lafontaine. Hello, good morning, everyone. Good evening in China. I am Roberto Lafontaine, director of the International Cooperation Center for the Teaching of Chinese Language and the regional Latin American and Caribbean office. So our center in Latin America and the Caribbean is dedicated to the teaching of Chinese language among a public institution, private institutions, national governments, local governments, higher education institutions, secondary education institutions, and primary school. Welcome to this seminar of the International Day of Chinese Language. Today, we're gathered here to celebrate the cultural diversity and the enrichment that the study of Chinese language can provide. In this event, we will have the participation of students of different countries of Latin America and the Caribbean, such as Brazil, Argentina, Ecuador, Barbados, and Peru. And they will be sharing their experience of studying Chinese language and how this has helped them in their work and academic life. This seminar is not only allowing us to know the experience of the students, but also it will help us learn about the culture and the history of Chinese language and its impact in the globalized world we live in. Now, I would like to leave you with Madam Sumin Yang, Subdirector of the CLEC Foundation, the Regional Office for Latin America and the Caribbean, who's going to be giving us the welcome address. I would like to highlight that Min Yang is in Beijing at the moment, and in Beijing, Chilean time, it is 10 p.m. at night. So please welcome Min Yang. Thank you so much for being with us so late.
Thank you. Thank you, my colleague, Director Roberto. Director Roberto, distinguished guests, all the Chinese learning enthusiasts and practitioners from Latin America and the Caribbean, and good morning and good evening, friends from China. I am Sun Mingyang, Deputy Director of Latin American of Center of the CLEC. First of all, I would like to welcome and thank you all for joining us to celebrate the 2023 International Chinese Language Day. As a festival shared by the global Chinese education family, International Chinese Language Day has been held for 4th consecutive years. Recently, the United Nations and the UNESCO has successfully held activities and celebrate Chinese Language Day. More than 1,500 Chinese language activities will be held during the International Chinese Day by embassies, the consulates, the Chinese language teaching institutions, Chinese foreign schools in more than 140 countries around the world, as well as the Chinese bridge clubs, HSK centers, online Chinese classes, and Chinese workshops, a variety of exciting activities with rich content. As a professional platform for the CLEC of the Ministry of Education of China to serve the first-line Chinese education in Latin America and the Caribbean, the Latin American Center also specially invited outstanding representatives of Chinese language studies in the region to gather here and share their Chinese learning stories with you. The stories tells the love of Chinese and Chinese dream in their hearts. We have invited our studying students represented from different countries, different majors, and different industries. And the same thing is that everyone likes learning Chinese language and culture very much, and they all gain huge life value from it. I hope that the speeches of all the guests today can inspire our young students in Latin American countries in terms of the future life planning and career development. I hope that learning Chinese can give wings to everyone's dream and help you soar in the blue sea and blue sky.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Su Mingyang. And now we'd like to share the words of Madame Liu Wenshun. She's a cultural advisor of the embassy of the Republic of China in Chile, and she has sent these special greetings. Today is the Day of Chinese Language, a special day to celebrate the Chinese language and culture. Chinese is one of the oldest and most influential languages of the world, bearer of the splendor of Chinese culture and a bright jewel of the world heritage. Learning Chinese is not only a way of understanding Chinese culture, it is also the key that will help you open the door to a market of 1.4 billion people. Chinese is one of the most spoken languages in the world. Speaking it will not only help you understand China better, but it will also expand your professional and business opportunities. And it will increase your possibilities of communicating directly with Chinese people. Chinese is not only a language, but it is also a way of transmitting and experiencing culture. Learning Chinese will allow you to understand 1,000-year-old cultural history, and it will improve your capacity of communicating among cultures. Therefore, I invite you all to learn Chinese and dominate the language and open a door to China and the world. Thank you very much. So I'd like to thank the words of Madame Liu Wenshun, who wanted to share this interesting motivational greeting for our webinar and for the Day of Chinese Language. So now I would like to invite the main players of the seminar online today. I would like to remind you first, as the guys are presenting, that the Q&A session, you can send your comments. We have enabled reactions, so we can see in the seminar that we're getting hearts and greetings and so on. So the idea is that you can also send your warmth to everyone who's presenting today and send your comments and all of your feelings towards them. So we will begin with our first student, our first Chinese dream, Maximiliano Benate. He's from Argentina. He's a candidate to PhD in linguistics in the University of Jilin under the sponsorship of the New China Studies Program. Welcome, Maximiliano. Thank you very much, Andrea. I'm going to be sharing my screen now. Well, good morning, good evening, everyone. Please allow me to introduce myself and tell you about how this Argentina that was studying Chinese as a freelance in its free time ended up living in northwest of China. I am Maximiliano Benati. I'm currently doing PhD in linguistics in the Jilin University in the northeast of China under the sponsorship of New Chinese Studies and the Center for the Education and Cooperation of Linguistics of the Ministry of Education China. My area is the comparison of languages and always bearing in mind the culture that is inseparable of language. My story with Chinese language starts in 2009 in Buenos Aires, when, out of curiosity towards the Chinese characters, I started studying Chinese language, and in the recently opened Confucius Institute of the Buenos Aires city. So I never thought this was going to change my life forever. When I was understanding these beautiful characters, I could not stop admiring them, since they all have thousands of years of story to tell us, and they teach us about Chinese culture as well. And little by little, I started getting to know and being surprised with the richness and variety of Chinese culture, and what was just a hobby of studying Chinese on the weekends while I was doing my homework for work ended up being a passion for a language that until today, 15 years later, when I study at the most, I am even more amazed and in love with it. And of course, this is how my yearning for getting to visit China started growing. And people were telling me, why would you study something so hard? China is so far away, you're wasting your time. But I never gave up. continued to study, always with the view to the wall, dreaming of walking it until the time came of reaping the fruit of my effort. In 2014, I obtained a scholarship to come study a semester of languages to the Jilin University, and Chinese language made my first dream come true, which is walk along the Chinese Wall. So I was this is on a February afternoon. I was just amazed with the size of the airport in Beijing and the number of people. And I just went through the capital and I got to visit the most emblematic places, such as the Forbidden City, the Confucius Temple, the Summer Palace, and all of the wonderful places that Beijing has that are legacy for humanity. And even was amazed finding images come from my studies book that became fixed points whenever I visit Beijing. And then after this brief but intense trip, I come to Changchun, the, cap- the capital of the Jilin uh, region, and I was dragging my suitcase on the snow. First time in my life I was in snow and living with snow, and this would become my second home. And I didn't know back at the time. This was love at first sight, not only because of the beauty of the campus, but also by the warmth of the people and the camaraderie of the students. So these short semesters, and with the help of my professors, and especially of those people who became the tutor of my MA and PhD, in the professional world, I started learning about the culture and the language with great strides. And with all of my classmates for all over the world, we did studies trips with all the students, and we were practicing and learning even more and just forming friendships that last till today. At the end of the semester, I could just pass the A4 level, and as a end of student trip for myself, I traveled throughout China by train for almost a month, testing not only myself, but also my knowledge of Chinese language. And this was one of the most unforgettable experiences I've had so far. In this trip, I could see some of the most famous places in China, like the Shaolin Temple, the Terracotta Warriors, the giant Buddha, the mountains of Changxie, that are like from a movie almost. And even the beautiful landscape of Beijing, famous for being portrayed in the 20 yuan notes. And this is how I fell in love of the Chinese landscape and also its people, because during this trip is where I could feel the warmth of the Chinese people that always helped me whenever I needed. And they also showed me that they carry alive the moral values, and they've been carrying for thousands of years. And when I came back to Argentina, a new dream started to be forming in myself, because not only I like the language and the culture, but I also love the country and its people. So in my trip, I realized that China and Latin America need a direct cultural exchange without intermediaries. So some of the information we get about China is not true. So now it's much better. But back in the day, it was just harder to get information that was reliable about China. So I was compelled to help improve our relationships and tell everyone that about my own experience from my own eyes, how beautiful this country is. So I started to participate actively in these events of the Confucius Institute and in activities of discussion of Chinese culture, getting ever more involved into this. So in 2017, I resigned my long-standing job, and I went back to Jilin University to do an MA in the teaching of Chinese language to fulfill my new dream of collaborating with the spreading of Chinese language and culture in a more professional way. In this period, it was where also, apart from taking classes with my foreign classmates, and we were like an explosive mixture of 5 cultures from very different countries, we also were getting lessons from our Chinese partners, and we learned a lot about the language, the culture, and the power of transmitting ideas through it. I also had the chance of participating in competences and events where I was growing not only at a professional level, but also at a personal level. And I won a few awards there. We also did some trips with the students all together, with my classmates. Well, they are now friends from all over the world, actually. Apart from the trips, those who study here in China, you know that universities, you have this rich cultural life with cultural markets that are on the campus where the members show their culture to the audience in this climate of joy, friendship, and mutual respect. And also, we have a lot of fun in having a culture and language festivals and many more events that leave us hundreds of anecdotes and beautiful memories. And this is how we got our degree with a lot of pride and joy after all of these years. But when I wrote my thesis, I realized there was a gap in research and comparison of Chinese language and Spanish language. So I felt the need of contributing as much as possible to improve the discussion of Chinese language and culture. And that is why I registered in the new Chinese studies program with the dream of continuing my research. And I had the honor of being admitted in 2019. And ever since, I continue researching Chinese language, but also try to spread Chinese culture from my own experience, not only as a student and professor now, but also as a user of Chinese language, because I formed a family here in China and I live day to day here in China. And with the students of the new Chinese studies programs, I had the honor of participating in international conferences such as the Teaching of Chinese of 2019, where I had the privilege of being in the front row to receive an award. And also I could travel to Korea and get to know and see how the first Confucius Institutes in the world work. This was a very enriching experience. And the truth is that COVID came back and everything was online. But as I said, so far, we had the chance of seeing each other more often through a computer. So I've had the honor of giving some talks about language and culture in the Confucius Institute. And as I do my research, I always love to share things that are more interesting as well. I've also participated in conferences, professional conferences that are specialized, and I've had the honor of being interviewed by the main Chinese media, which is something that I would have never thought of. This is the story of my Chinese dream, very summarized because I've had wonderful experience participating in movies or see with my own eyes the legacy of the cultural and material legacy and many other things that I never thought would happen while I was doing my Chinese homework at lunchtime or in my lunch break back in the day. So Chinese language has never stopped giving me more dreams to fight for, and many times I've learned about things that are not even that I never expected. So the motto here, it is about facilitating dialogue, and I believe this is a brilliant language because Chinese uh, culture is coming from a number of other cultures, and under thousands of years of influence to the Chinese society, this has become a Pacific culture full of love and respect for others and for the world that surrounds us. This is why Chinese is the perfect language to dialogue among civilizations in a tone of friendship and mutual respect. So I invite you to study Chinese. If you haven't started yet, I can tell you with dedication and effort, you can achieve anything you want, even if the objective is set on a country that is so open, friendly, and with so many opportunities as this is. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity of telling my story. And thank you everyone for listening to me. Thank you very much, Massimo, for your experience. In fact, the audience is giving you a lot of thumbs up and hearts. We have a couple of questions that we're going to be seeing. Very inspiring story they're telling us. And now we have other stories that we're going to see if we can take towards the end of the talk. But for time's sake, we are going to go welcome our second guest of today. He's Joshua Johnson. He's from Barbados, and he is an awarded student of the Confucius Institute for Software Engineering. He's the winner of the local competition of Chinese source Chinese Bridge 2020. Welcome, Joshua. Go ahead.
Ahí tienes que desbloquear el micrófono, Joshua.
Please unmute yourself, Joshua.
A ver, vamos a esperar ahí. Ahí sí.
Hey, everyone. Can you hear me? Great. Cool. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you. For the time's sake, let's get straight into it. My name is Joshua. From Barbados, as they said. I did software engineering. Today I'm going to tell you a bit about why I studied Chinese, how it's gone, and why I'll continue. 大家好，我叫卓远，来自巴巴多斯。今天我会简单的说说我为什么学习中文，我为什么继续。好的。Cool. Cool. So yeah, this is the plan for today. We'll go through an introduction, why, as I was saying, and then things like the opportunities that I would have been able to take up and do well in, and my current and future plans. Onward. So why Chinese? People always ask me in Barbados, why Chinese? Because in Barbados, we have like maybe less than 1% of the persons in Barbados speak Chinese. So we're part of Latin America. So if anyone thinks of a language to learn, they usually think, okay, let's learn Spanish, maybe let's learn French. So why Chinese? So the first thing is my degree. My degree was supposed to be 2 years in Barbados and then 2 years in China. However, in the third year, which was 2020, we heard COVID-19, we're not going to be able to go anymore. By this time, we had already started to learn Chinese. We had been at HSK 2 by then. And we were saying, you know what, let's go and learn Chinese really well, because when we get to China, we want to get jobs there, so we need to be good. But when my classmates heard this, no, they were like, well, since we're not going to China anymore, you know, why should we continue, right? So let's get at this. Why did I continue? 所以这个所以说已经走了半截, which means you already made it halfway. So I had this choice between giving up like everyone else on the Chinese and just focusing on software engineering, maybe being super good at that, or take up Chinese and add another skill to me. So now then I'll be a software engineer who can speak Chinese, which is great, right? This one here says 我一选技术学，就碰到了越来越多能用中文的机会。巴巴多斯的公园也给我通知了每一个学中文或者学中国文化的活动机会。What that means is that, well, I think you probably heard the translation, but essentially the Confucius Institute here in Barbados started to support me, even though I wasn't very good at Chinese. At the time, it was only HSK 2, I could barely speak. They would always tell me, you know, you can do this, you're good, you're really good, you got this. And they would give me like all the events that are coming up. So like a Sino Latin American camp. So I'll tell you more about the events that happened so far. And any opportunities to have an online this thing, online that thing, or same Chinese bridge that happened in 2020, which I was privileged to win. And through all of this, one of the things that encouraged me is it was this one moment that I have, and I hope that everyone has this moment at some point. It was during a Sino Latin American camp, so a camp between China and Latin America, where there was a teacher. She was a Chinese teacher and she spoke English well, so Chinese and English. But there was a student who spoke Spanish and a little bit of Chinese. They were now starting in Chinese. And the student had a question, but they didn't know how to say English nor in Chinese. So they said it in Spanish, but the teacher couldn't understand. But at the time, I knew enough Spanish and enough Chinese to then translate the question that the student was saying to Chinese and tell the teacher. Then the teacher told me in Chinese what to say, and I told them in Spanish. And at that moment, I was like, yes, this is why I am on earth. I felt so amazing. And I was like, you know what? Languages is what I'm on earth to do. So at least one part of it. So from then I was just extra motivated to go and learn better and do better and make this really good. All right. So my journey and methods. So this is the point where if anyone takes notes, this is where I would take notes. So 虽然我还没出过中国，但是我 so this means yeah, exactly. So that's what it translated. So even though I haven't been to China, I've done these things to learn Chinese. So this is a question I get all the time. 你出过中国吗? Have you gone to China, sorry. Since you haven't gone to China, how have you learned, etc., etc. So these are the ways, and I can tell you more about these specifically afterwards. If you contact me, I have my contact information at the end, but these are the main ways. So find one dedicated way. So for me, YouTube was one. I found some courses on YouTube and continue through those. And then for entertainment, I would use Netflix to I will use Netflix to watch for entertainment. Let me change I can hear the language, the translator. Good. And then when I use YouTube to watch the videos, then I would get the HSK books afterwards, and I would go through the book. And then Confucius Institute was always so helpful in terms of helping me to get the example tests so that I could listen to the test and write it out and do tests before coming in. So studying on my own online definitely was doable because of the help and support of the Confucius Institute here. Now, in terms of events and competitions, this helped with motivation and like pseudo immersion, because the camps you would have same Sino Latin American camp maybe for 2 weeks, and every night you would have to go to the camp till like 9 from like 8 till 10 or whatever. So then every night it was almost like you were in China. Everything was in Chinese. And this is another great way to help me study. In terms of more details on these, remember you can message afterwards and I will share. There's another quote that I like to remember, and it is useful for not just learning Chinese, but for learning any language or for anything that you're trying to get good at. And it says, "Do you see a man skillful in his work? He will stand before kings, he will not stand before obscure men." And what this means is, whenever whatever you're pursuing, once you get good at it, there will be opportunities for you to use it. They will disappear. So whatever it is that you're trying to learn now, whether it be Chinese, another language, or some other skill, just make sure you do your best. And there'll be some days where it might be hard. It might just seem like you're putting in reps. It might be kind of boring or whatever, but know that you have a goal in mind, and know that as long as you put in the hard work and you continue, you will be rewarded. All right, so this is a bit of the opportunity. These are some of the opportunities that came up since I started learning Chinese. One of them was the Chinese Bridge competition in 2020, which was really fun. And I got to win. I still had to learn a lot more after that, way better than I was then. And I will continue to learn some more. The camps that I mentioned, online scholarship. Because I tried hard in the camp, 30 of us from the camp were chosen for a scholarship at BLCU, which is Beijing Language and Culture University, or BeiDa for the Chinese speakers. And it was an online scholarship, but I was also doing it during my last degree of school. So my last year of school. So it was a bit difficult to do both, but it was great to have the opportunity, and I definitely still learned a lot. This is another thing that happens. There's a youth forum between ZISU, Zhejiang International Studies University, and I'm essentially the leader. I'm the moderator of it. It happens every 3 months. The next one is going to be in May. At the end of this, I plan to put all of these on my website, on my blog, so you can see them if you want to see some videos of how they went. Also, this year I got a Chinese government scholarship, and God willing, I will be at Tsinghua starting in September in this year, which should be amazing. And all this is largely because I've been trying to study Chinese. I've been learning Chinese. The Chinese embassy also invited me to, the local Chinese embassy in Barbados invited me to speak and listen at some events. And that happened recently too. And the most recent, I guess, win was the Chinese dubbing competition, the global Chinese dubbing competition. And I have a video of that, but it's 2 minutes long. And I think I'm like 8 minutes in. So I can share that again afterwards as well. So quickly, let's wrap up with my plans. So at the moment, with my software engineering degree and Chinese language learning, I'm developing a tool, an app, something to help persons to learn languages. I don't want to share all the details right now, but again, stay tuned to my contact information afterwards, and I will make sure to let everyone know, maybe through my Instagram or through my website when those are out. So finally, I'd just like to say thank you for inviting me to speak at this event, for inviting me to share my story and to encourage all of you to learn whatever it is you're learning, especially Chinese, and to show you that learning Chinese will definitely give you many, many opportunities and will help you with whatever you're going to do. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Joshua,
Thank you very much, Joshua, for your presentation. It was so dynamic. In fact, many people were commenting here. So if you want, you can put the chat section, your Instagram, just leave us your blog or website so everyone else can see it. We'd like to also thank that you paid attention to your presentation. And also in the meantime, you can send us in the Q&A and you can let us know what countries are you listening. And if you're studying Chinese, what level do you have so we can get to know you as well. So in the meantime, we're going to be presenting then our third speaker of today. He is Wagner Lacerda Dantes. He's from Brazil, financial expert, and currently is working as a coordinator of the Central Station of Journalism of Latin America of CCTV. He has worked in the Bradesco Bank and as a Chinese Portuguese translator for government units and private units. So welcome, Wagner.
Hello, everyone. I will begin to my introduction. Can you see my PowerPoint? Everyone is watching? 好的. Oh, okay. This is my Chinese story and my Chinese dream. First of all, a little bit nervous. Hello, everyone. Hello, all the teachers, friends. My name is Li Zhuilong from Brazil. I'm from the CCTV in Latin American Reporters Station. Office assistant. I graduated from São Paulo and international relationships major. This is in my childhood, I watched some movies about Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, the movies. It's same as some Brazilian Chinese to learn China, some through some Chinese Kung Fu movies. Today, I will share my Chinese story. I will also how to come to São Paulo. First of all, I share my Chinese story. I was born in Marcelo, a small city in northeast in Brazil. When I was 1 year old, my parents divorced. I followed my parents in his hometown. Nashville is a northwest small city, a seaside city. I I was living here. When I was 23 years old, my mother got sick. I moved to Sao Paulo to look after them. She's very good now, and so don't worry. At that time, when I moved to Sao Paulo, I need to help my mother for the living. So I start to work. My first job in bus. I worked in a clothes store because there are many Chinese people. I made a lot of friends from China. I wanted to know what they said. For example, in this picture, I ate with them. I want to know what they said. I ate with them, but I can't understand them. So I want to learn Chinese. I want to be their friends. I want to know their stories, their living, and their culture. And then when I entered into university, I started to the Marxism and the Muslim, the books. I joined many activities in Brazil. I also helped the university students to learn the socialism. And in international relationships, I learned politics, economy, history, and Chinese culture. In the course, I found the Chinese development is rapidly, and they use a very special socialism way for China. When I decided to learn Chinese, my family and friends thought I'm insane because that is a language is totally different from our mother language. Many people said I cannot learn in Chinese well. I continue to study Chinese. So I went to the Confucius Institute at Sao Paulo University. All the teachers from Confucius Institute helped me a lot. This is in Confucius Institute. I also met, I also got the Confucius Institute scholarship. I went to Hubei University for learning Chinese for 1 month. This, this is an unforgettable experience. In the university, I learned a lot of knowledge and made a lot of friends. I so gratitude for all the friends who helped me. This is when I was in Sao Paulo Confucius Institute to study. I'm studying and teaching. We've helped each other with the Chinese friends. This picture is my former work in the clothes store. And this is a friends took me to the ETV to sing, and the friends to learn the song about of a friend. And then before I came to China, I already the biggest bank. The name is Bradesco Bank. I worked there. They agreed me to take Chinese lessons. They know this language is this language plays a very important role for the world. When I came back to Brazil, when I came to Brazil, I went to this bank, and I was while I worked, and I came back to Confucius Institute at Sao Paulo to continue to study. Under the recommendation, they recommended me to work in Latin America, CCTV in Latin American Center. I left the bank because I can't use the language in the work. Even if this is a very good place and stable job, but I seldom use Chinese there. And this pictures is my first time to China. I was in Hubei University. I went to Zhangjiajie, like Fenghuang town, and many places. It's a they're all very beautiful place. This is in Hubei University. And to see the Alipay, because we don't have this payment in Brazil. This is when we graduate, this graduation pictures. And when I came back, I'm in the bank and I will go to CCTV. I would go to CCTV, the Latin American Center. I decided I will talk about some things. I joined many Confucius Institute activities and study Chinese very hardworking. And the second time I went to China, this is my second time to China. I joined many activities, some about the Brazil culture, and people celebrating the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China, and some competitions, and got the prize of international good networkers. And many newspapers interviewed me and to ask me how to learn Chinese and how to go to China. And what do you think of the Wuhan city? And this is the picture is about when I was learning Chinese, I also learned many Chinese cultures, and to learn some Confucius Institute source, and to learn some idiom about Chinese. And the second time when I went to China, I passed HSK 5. When the pandemic begins, I went to Vietnam. At that time, I had a girlfriend from Vietnam, so I went there. So I went there to see what's the Vietnam like. At that time, when I was in Wuhan, I was very afraid. As how if I know what goes on about the pandemic, I would never to leave Wuhan. But Vietnam is pretty good. So as in the country, I was always waiting. I want to find a job, and I translated many reports, documents, and I speaking Chinese, English in the school. I was waiting for the Chinese Open in that, so I want to make money and find a new job, found a new job. So in Vietnam, I still to learn Chinese with online lesson. I also learned a very famous magazine is Piao Yi. I wrote the news about Vietnam in the pandemic in Vietnam. I told them there are many delicious foods in Brazil, so I can't wait anymore. So I went to Portugal. I got the scholarship, and this scholarship, the first one is from Shanxi University. But later, I also got the Chinese government scholarship. I can go back to Hubei University to continue the master degree. When I was in Portugal, there was the Winter Olympics. I will speak quickly. And I joined many activities. I went back to Brazil. When I was in Brazil, I started to tell the people the experience, and I passed the HSK 5. I saw one. On the other hand, it's about my Chinese dream. I want to be the connection between the China and the Brazil. I hope everyone can learn Chinese well and learn Chinese hard. Thank you. If you have any question, you can contact me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wagner. There you can write on the chat as well as Joshua did your blog and contact information for anyone who would like to ask deeper, longer questions, so they can contact you directly. We also like to thank the audience who's just greeting us from Argentina, Costa Rica, Peru, Colombia. And there are so many questions. And the questions that are longer, we're going to be leave them for the end, because we're going to try to respect the schedule of each one of our guests, considering that we have some of them who are from China and it's almost 11 at night and they need to go to bed. So longer questions, we'll try to answer them towards the end. Otherwise, we'll send them to each one of the guests. So then, we'll continue with our presentation. And we're very pleased to present now Freddy Sempertegui. He's from Ecuador. He is a former student and ex scholarship beneficiary of the Confucius Institute of the San Francisco Quito University. We have people from Ecuador here greeting him. He's an HKC and he's an independent broker of exports of Ecuadorian shrimp to China. So welcome, Freddy. Hello, everyone. If you can hear me. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, yeah, no problem. We can hear you perfectly. All right, then. So, well, first of all, good evening, everyone. I am Freddy Sempertegui. I'm 29 years old and I'm from Ecuador. I didn't bring a presentation today. I just want to come here and have a talk with you. I see that there are very many students who are fighting with Mandarin Chinese. So I'm going to try to be very brief with the story I've had with Chinese. Let me put my phone to silent first. So currently, I work as an independent broker exporting Ecuadorian shrimp to China, mainly with the Crimasa company in the city of Duran in Ecuador. For a while, I was a part-time teacher in the Confucius Institute. And also, since 2020, I opened a YouTube channel in which I used to teach Mandarin Chinese. If you want, it's called Aprende Chino con Freddy in Spanish. So it is a bit abandoned, but I hope I can take it back on June. So just to start with my experience as a student, it all started in 2012. I was studying just on Saturdays in the Confucius Institute. And this is why it was very hard to study during the week from Monday to Friday. So therefore, my first recommendation for all of the students who are here is please, if you're studying just one day a week, please find a course that is up more often, Monday to Friday, Monday to Thursday at least. Otherwise, it's going to happen the same that it used to happen to me. I would study one day a week and I will review on Friday just before the lessons, because if we don't have this pressure, it used to happen to me. I don't want this to happen to you. There was no day-to-day study. So this is the first recommendation. Therefore, my progress was very slow at the beginning. After a year of studying, I knew what it was necessary to apply for scholarships from the Confucius Institute, and finally given the exams and everything, thank God I could obtain a one-year scholarship in the Tongji University in Shanghai. In Shanghai, I realized how necessary it is to be in an environment of immersion, in a completely immersion experience, because in the city back then, I don't know now, it was very hard to communicate in English. Just learning Mandarin and dominate Mandarin, it is, well, being in China, in an environment that is not university, you just needed to speak it. So because of that pressure that I felt, it led me to obtain the HSK5 in 2014. It was not an easy task. I need to sacrifice a bunch of weekends and parties, and I needed to stay and listen to the audios of the books over and over again. I insist, this is about skipping the parties. I don't know how the issues of parties it is because of coronavirus, but why do I insist in this? Because when I was in China, I had so many classmates that ended the year and they could not have a conversation that was simple. They were skipping classes, and in the end, they would approve, of course, in terms of grades. They would get the very minimum to pass, the passing minimum grades. But this was mainly because they went to China not to learn the language, but they were just having this gap year of parties, and that is something I would like to recommend you against. If you gain a scholarship, please make the most of it and try to get Chinese friends, make the most out of your time studying and not so much in just partying all night. So to each his own, of course. Your motivation should come from whatever you see fit. My motivation personally in 2014 was because I was yearning to come back to Ecuador and obtain a good job to help my family. And then again, and thanks to this, I could find a job as a translator in the wholesale company. Now it's called Lafarge. This experience as a translator allowed me to improve my Tingli skills because I was listening to Mandarin all day. And it even helped me to improve my skills and my technical vocabulary and business vocabulary. So I recommend you that as soon as you come back, if you ever have a chance of just studying abroad, get an experience as a translator because it can help you so much to polish this that which you can study in China. After this work experience, I could participate in the Chinese Bridge of 2015. I could win the first place in Ecuador. I was attending there. And because of that experience, I could just get another scholarship thanks to the Confucius Institute, Hambang, and another 6 month scholarship in Shanghai. Once again, I requested to go back to my dear Tongqing University. I was accepted again. And I could see all friends and students in 2013 where I was there. I was there 2013 to 2014. Then I had a more advanced level, and in those 6 months, I could finally get HSK6. Though at that time, I could do some part-time job in an Ecuadorian company with offices in Shanghai. I was able to fulfill this dream from 2013 to feeling the decision of leaving the offices in Shanghai, passing uh, the dawn, the dusk, and go for just passing a cafe to Liaocheng and go back home in the subway as just another Shanghai worker. For me, it was a beautiful experience, and I hope you can all fulfill these experiences if you have your goals clear, of course. If you make an effort, you repeat the audios and the works that many times we don't pay attention to. So believe me, it helps a lot. After back in Ecuador in 2017, after my last scholarship in Shanghai, began the decisive stage of my career, what I do currently, which allowed me to keep the job I have now, which is the exportation of Ecuadorian shrimp to China, sorry, as an independent broker. I started working in Omar as sales executive. After a year, I was hired by Good Farming, which is a company that Ecuadorian bananas. They buy loads of Ecuadorian bananas, and they incurs in shrimp towards China and the exports. Sorry, it was plantains, not bananas. So thanks to this work, I could back then, prior to coronavirus, from Marsa to Good Farm and then as an independent worker, I could travel since 2018 4 times a year to China, to Jiangxiang in June, Shanghai in August, in November to Qingdao, and January I could visit some clients. So that is why already in June I'm gonna be having again. Thank goodness I will have the opportunity to go back to China. I haven't been there since 2019. Since things are a bit more calm now, I can go to Changjiang to our market to visit old friends of clients, business partners, and I'm very happy and to try beautiful Chinese food that I miss so much. So that's all from me. It is a very summarized experience from me. The only thing I can tell you is, of course, it's not that my story is so much fun, but it's just to give you an idea of what's possible. If anyone that is roughly my age, 30, 40s, I don't know, you can learn Chinese. You can learn Mandarin Chinese. It is possible. You just need perseverance because not just Mandarin, with any language, it requires that daily hour you dedicate to listen, to practice, to make friends. It's not impossible. I'm no prodigy. I'm no alien. I'm just one person, just like you, just like anyone here. It just requires 1 hour a day. Just give it a try. I really recommend this. So don't give up with the language. Try to dedicate 1 hour a day at the very least. This is a language that can offer you a wealth of experiences in the world of work. In terms of exports, there's so many doors, and there are so many doors to China that I wanted to recommend you something to wrap up with. Despite that we have exports and imports, translation, we have so many different opportunities, but also let's remember that we're leaving times where we always talk about AI. Many people are afraid that because of these, many jobs will be lost. Mm, It is nothing out of the ordinary. In fact, many people are even doing university work with GTP chat, GTP4 chat. So let's bear that in mind. Let's see the trends towards the future. AI can replace a number of things, but if there's something that AI still cannot replace, is the treatment, the person-to-person relationships. It is not the same to speak with an AI than with a person. We all know it. You can be that link between China and your country. I am certain of it. I'm certain that your Chinese friends and clients will be more comfortable speaking with a person. So don't lose your motivation, learn Mandarin, be the bridge, be that nexus between China and your country so you can work in the area you're interested in. So let's study Mandarin. Let's dominate this language. Let's find business opportunity in China. And my invitation is never give up and keep going. Mandarin Chinese can even help you to find that freedom that many people yearn. Thank goodness I have that. In my work, I do it from home. And you can also achieve this. Freedom, it is something of an incalculable value. So I thank you so much for listening to me. If you have any questions, we can have a chat later. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Freddy, for your presentation and also for touching on this very interesting topic. Or for those who have studied Chinese, that culture, getting to know the Chinese culture, understanding both cultures also contributes to added value. So I invite you to those who presented, Freddy, Massimo, please post your social networks and Instagrams or whatever you're using. What are your blogs that you mentioned? And there I'll be forwarding these to everyone. Thank you so much. I would like to also greet people, Santi from Spain, who is sending us a greeting, Hannibal, who is from China. And I also see that in the social networks of Click that I just shared with you, we are already being tagged in the Instagram story. So you're all welcome to follow us and continue to tag us. So now we will continue with our next speaker. She is Alicia Ortiz. She is from Peru. She has a level of Chinese HSK6, mentioned by many of the panel members. This is the National Certification of Chinese. She's the award winner of the Confucius Institute Scholarship and second award of the Chinese Bridge contest in Latin America. She's been a teacher of Spanish, English, and also works as a translator and interpreter. So please welcome Alicia. Hello, how do you do? Good morning, good afternoon, from where you're listening.
All the teachers and the students, good morning and good evening. My name is Alice. This is to share my experience and stories about learning Chinese. I briefly have self-introduction. I'm from University of Ricardo Palma. I graduated Chinese Spanish English interpretation major. In 2017, I joined the Chinese Bridge, got a good results. I got the second prize in Latin America. Now I study an MBA master in Xi'an Jiaotong University. Also, I am as an interpreter in China's company. I briefly introduce this my work experience. I was as an internship in Bank of China, and for 1 year in 2020, I went to the China's Railway 2020 Bureau. I joined a project for the highway, and I was as an interpreter. In 2022, I was in China transportation as an interpreter as a project about a bridge. Now I work in a very important smartphone company. It's called Vivo. It's like Huawei, Xiaomi. In last year, the company came to peril and it's developing. For me, for the process about learning Chinese, I will introduce the three things. First thing is I went to China in 2015. I went to China and stayed there for 1 year. I got the Confucius Institute scholarship. I chose the city of Xi'an. It's a very interesting and historic city. And for me, I like this city very much, so I decided to go to this city. When I came there, my Chinese level is not very proficient. I couldn't understand the Chinese and I couldn't speak any Chinese. So I don't want to go outside. I'm afraid I don't have confidence. So generally, I was in dormitory and don't went outside. But what's the motivation for me to communicate with Chinese? It's tourism. So when I go travel, when I go different places, I communicated with Chinese. Through the tourists, I learned some Chinese and the charming about the Chinese. And the next is I joined the Chinese bridge competition. When I came to Peru, my teacher encouraged me to join this competition. So they wanted me to learn more about speech and performance. So I prepared a lot and I got the first prize in Peru distinction. So I went to Changsha, China, and in Hunan TV and do the television project. I not very confident. And for all the competitors, their Chinese is very proficient. So I had so much pressure. And when I came there, I communicated with a teacher. I share my feelings, and she told me, don't regard this project as a competition. It's just an experience, and to learn more, make more friends, and play more, and to enjoy this opportunity. So I started to finish all the duties about the competition, and I got a very good result, and I got the second prize. It's made me very proud, give me more confidence. The third thing, this is a picture in Xi'an, China. This is the Chinese bridge competition. The third thing is in 2020, I translated for the China's medical group. In 2020, in May, it's very severe of the pandemic. So medical group and share the experience to the to the Peru medical group. So I was the interpreter. I went to some hospitals and some ICU. I was very nervous. Besides, they were very important doctors. I also need to learn some knowledge about the medical because at that time I didn't know about any words. So I need to learn more and read more books and some professional words. So I remembered I went to the ICU and take the clothes to see the patients and to use the breath machine. It made me very uncomfortable because as an interpreter, you must experience this thing and maybe you cannot control yourself, but you must face it bravely. So I want to tell everyone and encourage you, even if I know it's a very difficult language, you must have the confidence, motivation, and you can do it. Because after a long time, you can speak Chinese like me, like my friends. You can speak it very fluently and believe yourself. And you can make contributions for your countries and for yourself. No matter in business, no matter for your job, you can do it. It's helpful for your growing up. So I encourage you to learn Chinese and to be work hard and to cherish the scholarship from Confucius Institute and the Chinese government. You can go to China for studying and you don't need to pay anything. It's free except some airplane fees and the dormitory fees. The tuition maybe is free. You can ask more teachers. You can apply for the Confucius Institute. You can study online if you don't have money or you don't have time. You also can learn Chinese in YouTube or TikTok. There are many ways to learn Chinese. So I think Chinese is very challenging, but also I have the motivation to learn Chinese and the Chinese culture. Chinese culture and Chinese people are very beautiful and friendly. I was very, very happy in China. I want to go back to China as soon as possible. I want to improve my Chinese proficiency and to learn more Chinese culture. So don't give up. You can do it. So cheer up, everyone. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Alicia, aquí por la
Thank you
presentación.
so much, Alicia, for your
También el público
presentation.
está
In fact,
solicitando tus redes
the audience is
para que
also
compartas el
requesting your
chat.
networks if you
No
can
hay
share them on
ningún
the chat.
problema. Y
There
agradecer
will be
también
no problem.
toda
And
la
thank you
ayuda
also for
hacer
all of the
este trabajo
help and
virtual.
also doing something so noble
Vamos
during the
entonces
pandemic.
a continuar con
So
nuestro seminario.
we
La
will
verdad que ha
continue with
estado
the
muy
seminar. The truth
interesante
is
y
that
tenemos
this has been
muchos
so interesting and
participantes
we
con
have so many
diferentes
participants with
perfiles y desde
different
diferentes
profiles and
ámbitos ahí
different
de especialización.
scopes
Así que
of
continuamos
specialization.
con la
So we
presentación y
continue
le queremos
with
dar
our
la
agenda. We
bienvenida
want to
a Daira,
welcome
Daira
now
López. Ella
Daira
es de
Lopez.
Argentina, es
She's from
estudiante de idioma
Argentina.
chino
She's
del
a
Instituto
student of
Confucio
Chinese language
de
of the
la UBA,
Confucius
la Universidad de
Institute
Buenos
of
Aires.
UVA,
Alumna
the Buenos
concurso
Aires
exterior de la
University,
Fundación
student of
ICBC,
Foreign Commerce of
ganadora del
ICBC
concurso
Foundation,
Puente Chino para
winner of
estudiantes
the Chinese Bridge
universitarios
for
en
university
Argentina del
students
año
in
2023.
Argentina of
Así que damos la
2022.
bienvenida entonces
So we'd
aquí
like
a
to
Daira para
welcome
que nos
then
comparte su
Daira
experiencia.
for sharing her
Hola, buenos
experience.
días, buenas
Hello, good
tardes。
morning, good evening.
大家好，我是来自阿根廷的大雅。好，今天我要用西班牙语跟你们讲我的
I
中
will
文故
share
事。
my story with
primero
China
que todo,
use
quiero
in
agradecer por
Espanol,
invitarme y
in
First of all, I'd
Spanish.
like to thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity of participating in such a wonderful activity to celebrate the International Day of Chinese Language, both to the foundation, CLEC, and the Confucius Institute of Buenos Aires side. And also, I'd like to thank all of the panel members and participants for each talk on topics and their experience that for us students abroad allow us to get to know more and approaching ever more so to the great culture that the Popular Republic of China possesses. So 1 second, I'll be sharing my presentation just now. Can you see it? As I was introduced, I was just like many of our classmates here, one more student of Chinese in our country, Argentina. Well, last year, 2022, I was lucky enough to be a representative of these university students in Argentina of the International Competition of Chinese Language. It was an average contest by National Handball. This was not possible without the support of our professors, uh, members of my family, and everyone else. As many of you know, learning a language gives us many benefits for our physical health and mental health as well, allowing us to communicate better and have greater work opportunities. But for me, the most important thing is that it also allows us to learn about a new culture, new ideas, and a new world. Each classmate that presented today have their own story, their connection, and link to China. I'm going to be sharing a part of my story, and I hope you enjoy it. In 2017, a 6-year-old girl started learning Chinese. Back then, I was very nervous because I knew that it was not just a language to learn. It was very different to my mother tongue, but it was also a culture and geographic location that was completely different. But before I can tell that part of the story, I need to begin by the beginning. Before learning Chinese, what was my relationship with China? What was my opinion? And how much I knew about China at all? At 11 years old, I was studying piano in the Astor Piazzolla Conservatory in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Day I met who will become my best friend till today. She is also from Argentina with Chinese immigrant parents. While we share the same nationality, she would tell me and would share with a lot of enthusiasm about the country of origin of her parents. We would listen music from the country, we would eat some snacks, and even she would bring me souvenirs from her trip. Later, I met her mother, Carolina. She received me with warm arms. She told me that I need to drink warm water if I feel ill and I should not eat spicy food or drink cold days on certain days. She's a person that until today is treating me after if I was one more daughter, and I appreciate her and I have a lot of love for her. At 15, this best friend of this girl invited her to go on a trip to China with her family. But back then, what did I even know about China? Until now, for this girl, the only thing I knew about Chinese language is that this was a country that was a completely different to my own. It had different music and some different habits, and even the flavors of those snacks were completely different. That is, until then, I really didn't know much about the country and its culture. Therefore, I just felt very foreign from this country that was on the other side of the world. This was until when I was 16, I started studying Chinese language to communicate with a grandmother of back then my boyfriend. Because of a language barrier, it was difficult for us to get to know each other. And from then, we started building a long bridge, finally from myself all the way to China, or as in Spanish we would say, from here to China. Because we know that this is the opposite uh, part of the world, a place that many people can have wrong information of, or simply not having information on that. Today, with the technology, globalization, and the expansion of people around the world, it's ever easier to get informed and know in more parts of the world. But I need to say that nothing brings you to integrate and get to know a country, the people, and the culture as the language. When I started studying the language, I learned that Mandarin Chinese is the official language of China because it's spoken by most of the population or used people from other sectors to be understood. From then, the name Putonghua, which is about the common communication. Then I learned the meaning of its characters, grammar, the composition of Chinese characters, and the story behind expressions for to say, to ask, how do you do? When the literal translation it is, have you eaten? So the path of Chinese is intimately related to the understanding of the country and the culture and also its people. So I could speak and talk to this grandma, but I met lovely people who learned the language with me, teachers that taught me with enthusiasm Chinese in Argentina and also in China. The Chinese that want to know my country and teach each other our culture and language. This is why I'm so thankful about the Chinese language. Even despite many times I continue to make mistakes, people sometimes laugh, and sometimes I don't allow myself to understand fully. I believe it is even more important and memorable to remember the beautiful thing about learning a language, both to be able to communicate, tell jokes, exchange cultures, eat all of the foods, and learn part of the history, listen to songs, watch martial arts and others, and then I can even sing traditional songs and I rap in Chinese, which of course I can't do well still. Here I am with my friend that I met at the end of the World Cup of last year, and she's a student of Chinese language in Spanish in Argentina. So, sorry, she studies Spanish in Argentina, and when we met at the World Cup finale, she did not understand what was going on in a country. So therefore, I took over explaining her in Chinese in the best way I could about a great passion in soccer. It is hard to explain someone who's not from Argentina. Therefore, these are moments and people who most likely, if that young 16-year-old could not study the language, she would have never known and share the stories, eating together, studying together, and everything else. Currently, having the domain of Chinese language allowed me to open different doors, both work field and as well as knowing great friendships, having the opportunity of applying to scholarships, and also have the opportunity of representing my country in a global competence. So this is a path that's just beginning. However, in concluding my speech, and I'm so sorry if I'm over the time, I hope that just as that grandmother was my key that allowed me to be submerged in this complex art of communication, this can inspire you to open that door to you. I encourage you to go out, explore, know, and make mistakes as much as you can. Pursue this goal, enjoy the path, and love the end. Arrive to communicate to the heart what you really want to express. And lastly, to finalize my talk, I still have some minutes. I think I went too fast, actually. I brought a section of recommendations for the studying of Chinese. We are celebrating the International Language of Chinese. And the other panel members, I can also pay attention to your recommendations. I brought for the practice of Chinese, spoken Chinese, as well for reading and practice of characters and some YouTube channels that I use day-to-day life. So I hope that this is useful for you, and I am here to tell you anything. I'm here available for all of you. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you so much, Zaida, for your presentation. I believe one of the things that so far, and the rest of the panel members will also agree upon, is that many of those who start with Chinese language, we start with language and basic levels, and China has allowed us to open so many paths that at the time we never imagined that could be showing up. So we'd like to encourage everyone who is watching us. I have more than 100 people online who are eager to get motivated to say Chinese is hard, it's complicated, and it brings a lot of benefits that until today we still don't know what it would end. Thank you so much, Zaida, for sharing this. Let's go with Eduardo, our next guest. And he's going to share his experience. He's from Brazil. He is a PhD student in social sciences in studies of relationship between China and Brazil of the Philosophy Institute and Human Science of the University of Campinas, the State University of Campinas. Welcome, Eduardo, with your presentation.
Thank you, Andrea.
可以跟到吗？可以。
Can you see the screen? Yeah, it's okay.
谢谢。
Thank you.
大家好，我叫
Hello, everyone. My name is Edward, 32 years old, a Brazilian,
在
studying Chinese at the Confucius Institute at the State University of Campinas.
今天
Today, I want to share my story about learning Chinese.
2009年开始
I have been exposed to to Chinese since 2009. At that time, I didn't have a clear goal for learning Chinese. I just wanted to learn another language. When I was in college, some students studied German, French, or other European languages. I felt that although these languages are important, there are already many people in Brazil can speak them, and I should choose a new language to master a unique skill. When I was a sophomore, I asked the rector of university about this issue. He thought it would be possible to try an Oriental Chinese, such as Chinese or Russian. Which one should I choose? He suggested to learn Chinese because China is very important to the world now. After being deeply inspired, I started to learn Chinese. It was this decision that gradually affected my later major choice and research direction. I first learned the Chinese in my hometown. At that time, I didn't know there was Confucius Institute. My first Chinese teacher was from Taiwan. She came to Brazil in the 1960s, and she helped me pass the HSK3. Compared with learning other languages, the experience of learning Chinese is really special. Not only do you have to memorize pinyin and pay more attention to the terms, but you also need to learn the Chinese characters and be able to write Chinese characters correctly. A few friends asked me, is there an easier way to learn Chinese? My answer was always the same. Unfortunately, there really isn't. I have always felt that learning Chinese is a lifelong project with no end in sight. And the most beautiful scenery is on the road. Learning Chinese can not only learn the basic skills of Chinese, but also appreciate the beauty and the elegance of Chinese characters and the profoundness of Chinese culture. Confucius said, the one who knows is not as good as the one who likes it, and the one who likes it is not as good as who enjoys it. No matter whether you are progressing fast or slowly, the most important thing is not to stop learning and enjoying the fun of learning Chinese. After graduating from university, I continued to learn Chinese, but I feel more and more that I should choose a master's and a doctoral major related to Chinese. It's a pity that my subject has nothing to do with China and when I was studying for a master's degree. After my doctoral degree, I can finally do academic research in Chinese, such as translating a Chinese article and participating in the project organized by my supervisor to translate classic Chinese and philosophy. The first classic we plan to translate is Confucius Analects 论语. Now I'm finishing my doctoral thesis, the theme of which is the influence of Chinese philosophy on Chinese science and technology. I would like to study the influence of the moral values of Chinese philosophy on the development of science and technology in ancient China and the development of science and technology in modern China. In the thesis, I first investigated the sinology created by European thinkers and the prejudice of this sinology on the history of Chinese science and technology development. Then I investigated the three major schools of Chinese philosophy, such as Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. The main idea of Confucianism is adequate. The development of science and technology should emphasize adequate and educate the society, and the etiquette cannot be violated in order to develop science and technology. The main idea of Taoism is Tao. That when developing science and technology, we must respect the Tao and the nature, and the Tao follows nature. The best technology is to connect human beings with nature. Buddhism teaches people to reduce human instinctive desires when developing technology. Everything is empty, and the world needs benevolence. When writing this thesis, I also used other Chinese philosophical sources such as benevolence, inaction, conscience, and so on. Therefore, if you do not learn Chinese, you will not have this thesis, let alone complete this thesis. The purpose of my writing this paper is to understand how Chinese science and technology are influenced by the source of Chinese people, and the establishment of a modern science and technology system also needs to respect the ideas of every people. I very much believe in what a Nobel laureate once said, if human beings want to survive in the 21st century, they must go back to 2,500 years ago and absorb the wisdom of Confucius. Finally, I would like to thank the teachers of the Confucius Institute. Your teaching methods have improved my Chinese level. My Chinese dream is to continue to improve to be able to speak Chinese fluently in the future and go to China with the Chinese I have learned. After graduating from my PhD, I want to translate several works of Chinese philosophers, continue to explore the source of Chinese philosophy, and make my own small contribution to the cultural exchanges between China and Brazil. I believe that learning Chinese will bring more and more chances and opportunities. Thank you all.
Muchísimas gracias, Eduardo, por tu
Thank you so much,
presentación.
Eduardo, for your presentation. The truth is that it has been most inspiring. I also like to thank Eduardo and those who have made an effort to make your presentation in Mandarin. It is not easy to present in Chinese, and of course, you inspire us to all of us who are still learning to improve ever more. So now, and to wrap up, we'd like to present our last guest of today. He is Massimo Tilly from Brazil, and he is a student of the Confucius Institute for Businesses of Hub. He's currently working in China Network, and we'd like to welcome him for his presentation. Thank you so much, Massimo. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Vou compartilhar minha tela aqui para vocês, só um momentinho. Canta Dalma.
Can you see it?
Bom, pessoal, primeiramente eu gostaria de agradecer imensamente a oportunidade da
First of all, I would like to thank the Opportunity Foundation CLEC
agradecer os meus
and the
professores
Confucius
de
Institute, thank the
Confúcio que
professors of Confucius
deram
Institute
palavras direitas para descrever o amor
who
que eu tenho
have
por eles,
worked
por
to
todos eles,
this
também aos diretores também, meus colegas que, poxa, se não
describe my
fossem eles
colleagues.
tão
If it
bons,
wasn't for
eu não
them,
sei se eu estaria aqui hoje.
I don't know if I would be here today.
Pessoal, começar a apresentação aqui sobre mim. Eu comecei a estudar a língua chinesa em 2019, tá? Eu trabalhava com construção civil e uma das minhas clientes era japonesa. E ela soube que eu tinha interesse de estudar uma língua
I
exótica.
had a Japanese client, and we had this interest that we were.
Eu coloquei as minhas filhas para estudar no Instituto Confúcio.
I was
e elas
studying in the
foram
Confucius
estudar.
Institute,
Tenta lá, vai atrás disso.
and to go to China, we were always trying to study. So I was there in 2017, and was one of the best experiences I've had in my life. And this is what transformed everything from then onwards. At the beginning, it was just to give you some background. I'm 22 years old, I'm Maximo. I am doing advanced 2, the Confucius Institute in FAP. I am now, since last year, in HS3, and I am now doing HSK4, and I'm applying for the scholarship of Chinese exchange in Beijing, and that's gonna be announced next month. So please, I beg you, wish me good luck so I can pass.
Como eu já tinha dito aqui, entrar no Confúcio foi uma das melhores escolhas da minha
As
vida,
was said already, Confucius Institute is one of the best experiences of my life. All of the teachers are native. I do classes of cooking and culture. I have had calligraphy competences, and in the calligraphy contest, I was drafting that poem of Suchimo.
Não vou lembrar inteiro, mas é pouco assim.
I don't remember this, but this is a very beautiful poem. I just won second place of the Confucius Institute. The prize was the book called Confucius Says, and it's a wonderful book, completely illustrated, because it's a cartoon of a superhero, most interesting. And this contest I started last year, and I went to China, and this was an institution of exchange of businesses between China and Brazil here in São Paulo, where I sang a song called, well, I'm not going to be singing now, of course, but so you don't feel ashamed for me, but I just wanted to show you some things here from the Confucius Institute, and part of the image on the left, as you can see, the Confucius Institute in FAP, we have access to a lot of materials of cultural materials, of the papers and books. We have our own library there, and a number of things that are very worth mentioning from the Chinese culture. We also have here a picture in the middle regarding Chinese calligraphy. And this is a book that tells some stories, some fairy tales, some regarding the Tang Dynasty. And on the right-hand side, we have also being in 2019, which was a very special event I participated in, and I participated in 1 or 2 months later after the entering the Confucius Institute. This was a very special thing for myself because before the launching of this book, in this very famous area in São Paulo, this book was being traded. So I had the first edition, and I was very enthusiastic about it to participate on the launching of this book. I am with the Minister of China, the Chinese consuls. This event was in the House Palace of the São Paulo government. So this was a very prestigious event. Therefore, not only, well, look where I ended up. So that is my point. Like, look how far this has taken me. So this was a great satisfaction for me. And in 2020, I again won the award. So I told the professor, please give me a name. So she gave me a name. And I got my name in Chinese in what it means in philosophical treatment or something more like that. So this is a name that I carry with great pride. I wanted to highlight something that comes from when we learn any language, whatever the language is, we are always connecting with the culture, because many people learn this language. I don't know, Chinese, Spanish, or Mandarin. Just that Mandarin has something special to it, because this is a language that is the most spoken language in the world. It is a very important language as well. When we're seeing in the moment we're living now, and I put this alternative here, of the Ministry of Education of China that did the research of 2021 showing that 25 million foreigners back then study Mandarin. So I thought, okay, that is very interesting. How many people, that is so many people, are next to us learning. And when I entered the Confucius Institute in the first month, I noticed that I had classmates from Morocco, United States, South Korea, and I met students from Mandarin as well who studied or visited, and some from Mongolia. And my professors, they were in Brazil. They were teaching in Brazil, Peru, Guinea, Malaysia. So this is a very international environment that projects you into the world. So this is really worth it. Speaking of this, of speaking about the projection into the world, we're now living the search of the Silk Route, which is, what does that mean? It means that we have new opportunities coming. And also, the Silk Route that Latin America is seeing, we also have we're speaking with the Brazilians, not only for Argentina, and I hope that you enter in the BRICS. The number of opportunities that are coming, it is very interesting. So companies are investing more here, they're coming over, and logically, each one will have their own experience based on your own needs, based on your life. But I can say that the opportunities come, and they are surprising. They're really worth it. In Latin America, if you're here, invest in that because Mandarin gives results, and not just results in terms of money or income increase, not just learning, but also it's just a joy. It's a joyful thing, and I'm very happy of studying Mandarin. I can say easily that is one of the greatest joys in life. It is a pride and a pleasure for me to speak about this. So speaking about this is how is it working in a Chinese company in 2021? This is Cainiao, a company. It's an Alibaba company. And in this company, I work with the administration or some administration, São Paulo, and they do purchases in AliExpress, and you can notice the China label there. And here we have several signs that I could speak with them. They teach me a lot of things regarding culture, and all of them, they say, what else can I say for China? You're gonna learn a lot if you go to China. So then it is a great pride for me to be part of this company. So I would like to thank the opportunities to Clegg, the Confucius Institute, and I hope we can see each other again briefly, and I hope I can hear from you as well. And let's meet next month if I can pass for my scholarship. I'm expectant for that. Thank you so much here. Whoever wants to contact me can follow me as well. Thank you so much, Massimo, for your story. The idea is that maybe you don't know this a lot in Latin America, but by being from the Alibaba group is very important. So we really thank all of our guests for your interesting and varied experiences. I would like to remind you that those who want to share in your social networks, please write them down on the chat so we can share with everyone and everyone gets notified. And now, for final comments and closing remarks, and closing this webinar today, I would like to leave you with our Fundación Clegg, Director for Latin America and the Caribbean, Roberto Lafontaine. Thank you so much, Andrea. Thank also to everyone, each one of you, for your participation and for showing us your Chinese dream. We saw so many different experiences today, from the point of view of the academia, from the point of view of work, how your life changed by learning Chinese. I believe that without a doubt, languages bring us together. They're a bridge among countries. But languages, and as you said so correctly, it's not just a language, it's a culture. A language cannot go separate from culture. It is one single thing. You who've learned Chinese work with Chinese language. You have been working with Chinese. It has changed your life. Also, you've learned the Chinese culture. And not only the traditional culture, modern culture, what China is today. And what China is today is part of this whole 5,000-year history. Without a doubt, your experiences have been very valuable for all of us here. And I'm so proud to have been able to hear them and share with students and members of the academia of all of Latin America and the Caribbean about them. I would like to say the same thing that Andrea said at the beginning of our seminar, that please continue participating. We're going to have activities this year of all sorts. We're speaking of Chinese plus technology. We did a webinar of Chinese plus electromobility with that one, Chinese plus telecommunications. We have another one of Chinese plus design, Chinese plus video games, etc. So we're going to have some contests for the students of the Confucius Institute and all of the students who learn Mandarin Chinese in Latin America and the Caribbean. We are absolutely motivated because Mandarin Chinese is to be known in our region. So thank you so much, everyone. And I really hope we can continue seeing each other, and great success in all of your activities to all of you who today are participating and those who today were present. Thank you so very
Thank you.
much, Shishi. Roberto, maybe before closing, a couple more minutes, I would like to say that we are reading all of the questions. Because in China, for instance, it's already midnight. We really need to wrap up for our speakers over there. I'd like to tell you that many people have asked about the scholarships because maybe our participants will be getting those comments. We get a lot of scholarships, and there's not just one source. So informing about scholarships is a completely new seminar. We have a month scholarship, 6 months for pre-graduate, MA, PhD, and each scholarship changes each year and its requirements and also the level of Chinese required. So therefore, I would like to advise everyone who's been asking about this is please check the website of Campus China, where we have more or less all of the agreements. We have agreements among countries and regions, etc. And little by little, get informed. Maybe our panel members, that maybe in the future you can share these on your Instagram, on your YouTube channels, etc. So thank you so much. And I left on the chat our social networks of Fundación Click, so you can follow us and you can stay in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you. Bye.